Three things are happening today that have not happened together on the same day in a very long time. And if you have been feeling the particular weight and depth and interior pressure of the last several weeks, if you have been navigating the emotional excavation of Mercury retrograde while the Pisces new moon has been doing its deep water work on everything unresolved, then today is the day you have been moving toward without perhaps fully knowing it. Today is the exhale after the held breath. Today is the release valve. Today is the day the pressure that has been building throughout this entire astrological period converts, finally, into forward motion. March 20th is not an ordinary day in the sky. The chances of three distinct and individually significant cosmic transitions occurring simultaneously, each representing a kind of threshold crossing in its own right, are rare enough that when they do converge, the energy they generate together is categorically different from what any of them would produce alone. What is happening today is not addition, three events, each with its own influence, stacking on top of one another. What is happening today is something more like ignition, a moment when multiple sources of energy align toward the same directional impulse, and the combined force of that alignment is available to you right now, in this day, in a way it will not be tomorrow or next week or next month. Today, Mercury stations direct. Today, the equinox arrives. Today, the sun moves into Aries and the astrological new year begins. And if you are watching this on March 20th, or in the days immediately surrounding it, you need to understand what that combination means. Not in abstract cosmic terms, but in the specific, practical, lived reality of your own life and what it has been waiting to begin. Start with Mercury, because Mercury is the one whose shift you have probably been feeling building toward the most viscerally. For weeks, Mercury has been moving in apparent retrograde, running its backward motion through the sky, returning things that were incomplete, surfacing things that were buried, creating the conditions for the past to press itself back into the present with an insistence that has been impossible to ignore. Every stalled conversation, every deferred decision, every situation that somehow couldn't quite move forward, the retrograde has been holding them in a kind of suspension. Not to punish, but to complete. Not to block, but to return them to a state where they could be honestly engaged with before the forward motion resumed. And today, that suspension lifts. Mercury stations direct, which means the planet governing communication, thought, information, and the movement of things between people and places resumes its forward direction. And when Mercury stations direct after an extended retrograde, something in the energetic atmosphere of daily life shifts in a way that you can often feel before you consciously register what has changed. The particular quality of stuckness that has characterized this period, the sense of things not quite moving, of conversations not quite completing, of decisions remaining maddeningly unclear despite your best efforts to resolve them, begins to release. Not all at once, not instantaneously, but the directional pull changes. The current, which has been flowing backward, begins to flow forward again. What this means practically for you is that the things that have been stalled in your life are about to become unstalled. The conversation that has been sitting unfinished, waiting for the right moment or the right words or the right opening, that moment is arriving. The decision that has been hovering in a fog of uncertainty, where every attempt at clarity seemed to produce more questions rather than fewer, the fog is beginning to clear. The plan that kept hitting invisible walls, the project that seemed to lose momentum at every turn, the direction that felt blocked despite the logic of moving forward, these things are releasing from the hold they've been in. But here is the nuance that matters enormously in how you meet this shift. Mercury stationing direct does not mean everything immediately resolves itself without your participation. It means the energetic conditions that were making forward motion difficult are changing. The wind is changing direction, but you still have to sail. The opportunity created by Mercury stationing direct is precisely that, an opportunity, an opening, a window of momentum that has a quality and a force that this particular kind of window only has at this particular kind of moment. And using it well requires recognizing it for what it is and choosing, deliberately, to move through the opening it creates. Alongside Mercury stationing direct, the equinox arrives today. The precise moment when day and night reach their equilibrium. Equal hours of light and dark, the fulcrum point of the year balanced for one brief moment before the light begins its extended return in the northern hemisphere, or its gradual retreat in the southern one. The equinox is one of the few moments in the yearly cycle when the natural world reaches a literal physical balance point. And the symbolism of that balance is not decorative. It carries a felt quality that has been recognized by human cultures across thousands of years of experience. The quality of a moment that is both ending and beginning simultaneously. A moment of arrival at the midpoint before the next movement begins. What the equinox brings to March 20th is a specific quality of transition energy. The feeling, and you may have been feeling it already today, before you even consciously connected it to the equinox, that something is genuinely shifting in the larger arc of the year. That the sustained inward, reflective, completing quality of the winter months is completing itself, and something more outward, more active, more directed toward the world rather than toward the interior, is beginning to emerge. This quality of transition is important for understanding what today is asking of you, because it means that the timing of everything you have been holding in preparation, the insights gathered, the intentions formed, the clarity slowly arriving through the depth of this retrograde and Pisces new moon period, has arrived. The transition the equinox marks is not just astronomical. It is the shift from the season of going inward to the season of expressing outward what the inward journey produced. From accumulation to expression. From preparation to initiation. You have been in a long period of accumulation. The retrograde demanded it. The Pisces new moon deepened it. The balsamic phase before the new moon pressed it. And all of that accumulated interior work, the honest conversations you had with yourself, the patterns you identified, the truths you finally stopped avoiding, the intentions you set from real ground, all of it has been building toward a moment when it could finally be expressed as action rather than insight. Today, the equinox is saying, the season has changed. The expression can begin. And then there is the third event, the one that gives today its final and perhaps most profound dimension. The sun moves into Aries today, and with it, the astrological new year begins. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, the beginning of everything, the sign that carries the specific quality of energy that belongs to initiation, to the moment when potential stops being potential and becomes actual, when the idea stops being an idea and becomes a first step, when the version of yourself you've been working towards stops being a vision and starts being a lived reality. Aries energy is direct. It is courageous. It does not deliberate indefinitely. It does not wait for perfect conditions or perfect readiness. It moves. It initiates. It acts. The arrival of the sun in Aries today is not just one more shift on top of the other two. It is the signal that the new year, the actual beginning of the astrological cycle, the fresh start that is more complete and more foundational than even the Pisces new moon that just passed, is here. And it is here on the same day that Mercury stations direct and the equinox arrives. On the same day that the communication channels reopen, the momentum returns, and the balance point of the year tips toward the light. The astrological new year beginning on the same day as all of this other movement means that the fresh start being offered, right now, is not the ordinary kind. It is not the tentative, uncertain, feeling your way forward kind of beginning that most new beginnings are. It is an Aries beginning, bold, directional, charged with the specific kind of energy that cuts through hesitation and asks, what are you waiting for? What has been ready to begin that you've been telling yourself needed one more preparation, one more resolution, one more sign that the timing was right? The sign is here. The timing is today. Take a moment to actually feel what this combination means for the specific circumstances of your own life. Because the mistake that's easy to make with a day like today is to receive it conceptually, to appreciate intellectually that something significant is happening, without connecting it to the actual concrete, lived reality of what has been waiting in your life for exactly this kind of opening. So think about the conversation that has been hovering. The one that Mercury retrograde was, in some ways, a permission to defer. The retrograde had everything uncertain. The energy was moving backward. The timing wasn't right. The timing is right now. Mercury is direct. The channels are open. The conversation that has been waiting for the conditions to be favorable has favorable conditions today. What would you say if you let yourself say it honestly? What would you initiate if you trusted that the opening is real? Think about the decision that has been sitting, genuinely, waiting for clarity that the retrograde kept obscuring. The fog that made every attempt at decision-making feel like trying to see through water. That fog is lifting. The clarity that the retrograde was returning you to is now available to be acted upon rather than just received. The decision that felt impossible to land on during the stalled weeks is now available to be made with the full force of what you learned and clarified during that difficult period. You know more than you did when the retrograde began. You see more clearly, and Mercury direct means you can use that clarity now. Not next week. Now. Think about the thing you have been preparing for. The project, the creative direction, the personal initiative, the version of yourself that the entire winter of going inward was actually building toward. The plans you formed, the intentions you set, the honest accounting of what you actually want to be doing with your life and your energy and your relationships. All of that preparation was not idle. It was the accumulation that the equinox is now inviting you to begin expressing. The sun in Aries is not asking whether you're ready. It's asking whether you're willing to begin. Those are different questions. Readiness is a feeling that can always be deferred. There is always another layer of preparation possible. Always another reason the moment isn't quite right. Always another version of more ready that you could become before you actually act. Willingness is a choice. It is the decision to begin from where you actually are, with what you actually have, in the direction of what you actually want. And today, with Mercury direct and the equinox arriving and Aries initiating the new astrological year, willingness is exactly what the moment is asking for. There is something specific that tends to happen in the hours and days immediately following Mercury stationing direct that most people don't anticipate, and it is worth knowing about so that you can recognize it and respond to it wisely rather than being caught off guard by it. Things start moving. Quickly sometimes. Opportunities reappear. Conversations that were silent open back up. People reach out. Situations that were stuck suddenly unstick with a velocity that can feel disorienting after the extended period of slowness. Decisions that felt impossible to make become, almost overnight, the kind of decisions where the answer is suddenly obvious, where you look at what you're deciding and wonder why it took so long to see it clearly. When this happens, and in the days following today's triple cosmic shift, it will very likely happen in some form in your life. The temptation is to rush, to overcorrect for the weeks of stuckness by moving as fast as possible now that movement is available again. And while the energy of Aries and Mercury direct and the new astrological year is absolutely directional and initiating, there is a wisdom available in these first days of the new momentum that rushing will bypass. The wisdom is this. The clarity you gained during the retrograde is yours to bring into the forward motion. Everything the retrograde excavated, everything the Pisces new moon deepened your access to, everything the honest interior work of these past weeks produced, that is the intelligence that should be informing how you move now that movement is available again. The rush to get back to business as usual, to pick up where things were before the retrograde began, and move as if the intervening weeks produced nothing, leaves all of that intelligence unused on the table. The wisest use of today's energy, and of the days immediately following it, is to move with intention rather than simply with momentum. to carry the clarity of the retrograde period into the action that Aries and Mercury direct are making available. To begin from the honest, examined, more self-knowing place that the interior work of these past weeks has brought you to, rather than from the same place you were before it all began. That combination, the momentum of the new astrological year and the earned clarity of the retrograde period working together, is what turns the action you take now into something more than just activity, into something that is genuinely aligned with where you are and where you are trying to go. The particular quality of today's convergence, and this is the thing that changes how you understand everything happening around you right now, is that it is not just a coincidence of timing. It is a kind of alignment that has a specific function. When Mercury stations direct and the equinox arrives and the astrological new year begins on the same day, the effect is not simply three separate influences occurring simultaneously. The effect is a coherence, a moment when the multiple streams of cosmic energy moving through this period all arrive at the same point, pointing in the same direction, with the same message. Move. Begin. Act. Now. That message has been absent for weeks. The retrograde was a period of stop, review, return, and excavate. The balsamic phase before the new moon was a period of complete, release, and receive. The Pisces new moon itself was a period of reset and interior realignment. All of that was necessary. All of it was producing something that you will carry forward into the action that today is initiating. But it was not a period of external motion and bold beginning. Today is. Today, every major energetic influence is pointing in the same direction. The Mercury energy says, communicate. The Equinox energy says, transition. The Aries energy says, initiate. And the alignment of all three says, do it now while the coherence is present, while the window is open, while the momentum generated by this convergence is available to carry what you begin. The window created by this alignment is not indefinitely open. It is strongest today and in the days immediately following. The energy of new beginnings that arrives with the equinox and the astrological new year is at its peak in these first days, before it distributes itself across the demands and routines of ordinary time. The willingness to act while that energy is concentrated and strong, to take the first step, send the first message, make the first move, is what allows you to enter this new cycle having actually entered it, rather than having watched it begin from a safe observational distance. In practical terms, today and the days immediately following are asking for specific things from you. And specific is the word that matters here, because the Aries energy of this new year does not respond to vague intention or general aspiration. It responds to concrete action, to the specific thing done, the specific words sent, the specific choice made, the specific beginning initiated. If there is a conversation you have been waiting to have, reach out today, not with a perfectly constructed message, not with every contingency planned for, not with the guaranteed outcome already secured, with the honest intention to open the dialogue that needs to be opened. The conditions that Mercury direct and Aries energy create are precisely the conditions in which that kind of reaching out lands well, in which the other person is also feeling the energetic lift of the new cycle, in which the conversation has a better chance of moving somewhere real than it has had in weeks. If there is a decision you have been waiting to make it today. Not with the certainty that it is the perfect decision, not with the assurance that it will produce exactly the outcome you hope for, not with all risks eliminated. With the clarity you have earned through the honest work of the past weeks, brought to bear on the actual choice in front of you. Decide from your real knowing, not from the artificial uncertainty the retrograde was maintaining. The clarity is there. Mercury direct means you can trust it again. If there is something you have been preparing to begin it today. The first step, the small one, the one that says to yourself and to the energy of the new cycle, I am in motion. I am using this opening. I am not waiting for a better moment. because this moment, with its extraordinary convergence of directional energy, is the better moment I have been waiting for. And if what needs to happen today is more internal, if the beginning is the formation of a clear intention about the direction of the new year, the articulation of what you are actually choosing to orient toward now that the introspective period has completed, then do that. Say it clearly to yourself. Let it be specific. Let it be honest. Let it be the version of your intention that the retrograde's clarity produced rather than the version you would have stated before the period of excavation began. Because the distance between who you were when the retrograde began and who you are now, having moved through everything it surfaced and returned, is real. And the new year beginning today deserves to be entered by the version of you that the whole of this period has been producing. Here is what is available to you on March 20th that will not be available in quite the same form tomorrow or next week. The energy of three cosmic shifts converging, Mercury direct, the equinox, the Sun into Aries, creates a specific quality of momentum that functions like a current. A current is always easier to move with when you enter it at its source rather than trying to enter it midstream. The first hours and days of this new cycle are the source of the current. The alignment is at its most coherent and its most directional right now. And the action you take while the alignment is at its peak is carried by it in a way that action taken after the peak has passed simply isn't. You have been in an extraordinary period. A period of more interior depth and honest self-examination than most people allow themselves in the ordinary rhythm of a year. The retrograde gave you access to things you couldn't have reached without its backward-moving pressure. The Pisces new moon gave you the emotional depth to actually receive what the retrograde was surfacing. The honest work you brought to the conversations, the patterns, the decisions, the avoided truths, all of that has produced something real in you. Something you know now that you didn't know before. Something you see clearly now that was obscured before. That knowing, that clarity, that honest self-understanding, that is what you are carrying into this new year. That is what the Aries energy is asking you to express. That is what Mercury direct is clearing the channels for. That is what the equinox is marking the beginning of, the season of expressing outward what the inward journey produced. The new astrological year is beginning today. The longest period of backward motion is behind you. The first threshold of a cycle that holds more potential than the one that just ended is open in front of you. Move. Begin. Act. While the current is strong, while the alignment is fresh, while the energy of this extraordinary convergence is still concentrated in this specific window of days. What you do with today, and with the days immediately following it, matters in a way that ordinary days don't quite match. The beginning of a new astrological year, on the same day that Mercury releases its backward hold and the equinox tips the balance toward the returning light, is a moment that the whole of the previous cycle has been building toward. You are not the same person who entered the retrograde weeks ago. The period you have been moving through has changed you, if you let it, has shown you things about yourself and your life that you needed to see, has returned you to things you needed to deal with before you could honestly begin again, has prepared you, through the difficulty and the depth and the honest interior work it required, for a new year that can be genuinely new rather than just a continuation of the old patterns in new circumstances. The astrological new year beginning today is an actual new beginning, not a calendar convention, not a symbolic gesture, but a real energetic reset that is available to you right now, in this day, in this convergence of forces that is pointing as clearly and as strongly as the sky ever points in any single direction. The direction is forward. The time is now. The beginning is here. Pay attention to where you feel pulled to move in the hours and days that follow this day. The pull you feel toward a conversation, a decision, a beginning, a direction, is the new cycle finding its way into your life through the specific coordinates of your actual circumstances. That pull is not random. It is the intelligent response of your interior life to the opening that today is creating. Trust it. Follow it. Move with the current while it is strong. Because the version of you that is standing here today having moved through one of the most significant astrological periods of the year, is ready for what this new year is about to offer. You have done the work. Now it is time to begin.